What led school transportation industry veteran Mike Martin to HopSkipDrive? We'll dive into that soon. Welcome to The Route, our school bus fleet content series. I'm Wes Platt, Executive Editor. Before we get going, please click like on this video and all our other videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please also connect with us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You'll find links to all those channels on our details of this video. Okay, let's get rolling. Our first stop is Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Department of Transportation's National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration have proposed a new rule that would require heavy vehicles, including school buses, to have automatic emergency braking systems that could mitigate the frequency and severity of rear-end crashes. AEB systems use multiple sensor technologies working together to detect a vehicle in a crash imminent situation, automatically applying the brakes if the driver hasn't done so, or if needed, they apply more braking force to supplement the driver's braking. The proposed standard would require the technology to work at speeds ranging between around 6 and 50 miles per hour. The agencies are accepting comments on the proposed new rule for 60 days. There's a link for more information in the details of this video. And please feel free to comment here as well on this video about your thoughts about requiring that technology. All right, next, let's head to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of ABC Transit and our school bus fleet contractor of the year, Aaron Silverman. 2023 marks the 10th year that Silverman has led the company, which includes a fleet of about 470 vehicles and serves several school districts in Western Pennsylvania. One district official, Angelo Caputo of Hilliard City Schools, said of Silverman, "Even through growth, Aaron maintains that mom and pop feel that is so important to the staff. Not only is he always on alert for new technology, he is driving a bus with the rest of the staff most of the time." Over time, Silverman has improved service, started safety initiatives, and improved efficiencies. Technology helping the company includes interior and exterior cameras, GPS for mapping speed and vehicle data, stop arm camera systems, and stability control systems. He told School Bus Fleet how much he looks forward to the unexpected twists on any given day. "I love that every day is where it takes you. No matter how you structure your day, something will come up to alter your plans. I guess I've always thrived on challenges, and the surprises we get in the transportation business definitely create organized chaos on certain days." Read the full profile about Aaron Silverman in the June-July print issue of School Bus Fleet, or you can look for the web version link in the details of this video. All right, our last stop is Los Angeles, California, and the headquarters of HopSkipDrive, a provider of supplemental school transportation solutions. The company recently released its 4th annual safety report with information about its 2022 performance. Based on data collected last year, the company's so-called care drivers completed more than 770,000 rides across 16.5 million miles, all of them without a critical safety incident. Said CEO Joanna McFarland, "I'm continually thinking of ways we can raise the bar across the industry, working together to improve the twin priorities of safety and expanding transportation access for students." The company also made news in June with its appointment of Mike Martin, longtime executive director and CEO of the National Association for Pupil Transportation, as HopSkipDrive's new senior strategic advisor. I recently had a chance to talk with Mike about his new role and the state of school transportation. Here's that interview. Take a listen. All right, so today I am happy to welcome Mike Martin, who is newly the Senior Strategic Advisor at HopSkipDrive. Mike, welcome to The Route.
Thank you, Wes. Delighted to be here.
It's a pleasure. I've known you in the past in your role as Executive Director over at NAPT, the National Association for Pupil Transportation. You were there for, about 20 years?
And almost 27.
27. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so you have been in this industry for a good long while. I don't imagine there are many people out there in this industry who've been at it for any amount of time who don't know who you are already. But for the archives and for those newbies like me that are out here, who is Mike Martin and how did you get into student transportation and particularly into HopSkipDrive?
Sure. I'm not sure how many people will remember me, even from a couple of years ago. Time erodes things quickly, right? It's like the sand falling out of the hourglass. But yeah, for those who don't know me, and for those who are maybe interested in getting to know me a little better, I began in school transportation actually as the executive director of the New York Association for Pupil Transportation back in the early 1990s. Worked there for about a year and a half, and then NAPT, which at that point didn't have a full-time staff of any sort. They used a couple of part-time people and a lot of volunteers, was looking to recruit someone to do the job full-time. And because of the work that I had done in New York, several people asked me if I would be interested in considering the NAPT job. And at the time, frankly, I wasn't. I had my own business, a lobbying firm with a partner of mine, and we were doing really well. But I really enjoyed working with the New York Association a lot. And when NEPT began its nationwide search for an executive director, I got a call from someone in the state of New York who was involved with NAPT. Robert Charles Pape, Bob Pape, who was just an icon, frankly, in the industry. And Bob asked me if I would at least interview for the job, and I got really lucky. Was offered the job, and became the kind of the Tommy Lasorda of school transportation. I worked for 27 years, 3-year increments at a time. So I had nine renewals of a 3-year contract, and ended up being there for 27 years. So I did not come to school transportation with any operational background at all. I am a law school graduate, had worked in government relations, had worked for not-for-profit associations for the most of my career at that point. So this was a kind of a return to my roots, so to speak, getting back to working for a not-for-profit association. And it just happened to be in a field that I really enjoyed, and met an incredible number, just an amazing number of thoughtful, compassionate, considerate, kind people. And fortunately, many of them have become friends of mine over the years. I've been very blessed.
And how did you end up coming to HopSkipDrive? Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, briefly, I left NAPT because I had a couple of physical challenges, a couple of health challenges, and frankly had been on the shelf for a while. But prior to my departure from NAPT, I had been interested for the previous 4 or 5 years in this market space, this aspect of the school transportation market space in particular. As luck would have it, I had a conversation with Joanna McFarland, the CEO of HopSkipDrive, and over the course of probably 7 or 8 weeks, in talking about just the variety of issues and challenges that are out there in the field. I was really lucky. And Joanna said, why don't you come and work for us? I think there's a role for you to begin to advise some of not only our senior executives, but some of our other staff as well. I've been with them now for a little over a month, I guess. So just fortuity, Russ, is what it worked out to be. But I've had an interest in this aspect of the market space for a while. And I think you see with the new entrant of a variety of other companies in this market space, that you can see it's kind of a growing aspect. People are acknowledging the fact that we've got a bunch of challenges right now. And this concept of supplemental school transportation is something that everybody who's a transportation director has been dealing with for a while. And they've kind of done it without any sort of, I guess, structure or any sort of options. There's just been I think a kind of a handful of purveyors and providers. But now it's getting a lot more attention because of some of the challenges in K-12 education in general, and in this market space in particular, that have kind of expanded the opportunities and opened people's eyes to the fact that there really is a need for a lot more tools in the tool belt when you're a local transportation director.
Yeah, and thinking about that, just where does this go? And what kind of role does HopSkipDrive and companies like, what do they play in this evolution? Because clearly it looks like, especially since COVID, I mean, I know there were driver shortages before COVID, but since COVID, it seems like there's been a little bit of a bleed off in the talent, like the people are going to work for DoorDash or their Amazon. There's all these other options for them to do. How does a company like HopSkipDrive help that evolution go forward?
If I may, let's start with a phrase you just used, and that is the school bus driver shortage.
Mm-hmm.
For several years, and there's a number of aspects of this answer. Okay, so I'll make it quick, but I think they're important. I've been in the school transportation realm for about 30 years, and there has never in any one of those 30 years been a point in time when what people call the shortage of school bus drivers hasn't been a top 5 challenge for school transportation directors, right? So this is not a new problem. Was it exacerbated by the pandemic? I think it certainly was. I think everything was exacerbated by the pandemic. But I have for the last probably 6 or 7 years preferred to talk about that in different terms, as opposed to calling it a school bus driver shortage. I think we need as an industry to look at it like it's a shortage of CDL license holders who are willing and able to drive a school bus. Okay, because you have to have a CDL in order to drive a school bus. That's the law in all 50 states. But that doesn't mean that there's over 3 million CDL license holders, right? We need in the school transportation market space probably about, I don't know, 600,000 of them. So there's a lot of other CDL license holders that could drive a school bus. They just choose not to, or they're disqualified for some reason. Okay, so with that as the background, the next level of inquiry there is some people call this market space alternative school transportation, and I'm not a big fan of that, frankly. I think this is supplemental school transportation. Is the way I always look at it. This service is not intended to create a substitute for the yellow school bus. Yellow school bus has a very specific purpose. It does it incredibly well. The safest form of school transportation, the safest form of motor vehicle transportation, actually, but it's not the appropriate way for kids to get school in every realm. And I'll give you another example. I have also long said to people that someone who is a director of transportation for a local school system who only focuses on school buses should actually be called the director of school bus transportation, because there's an awful lot of other ways that students get to and from school that aren't on a school bus. And a director of transportation is typically responsible for all of the students who get to and from school and making sure that it's the safest way possible. So there needs to be a supplement to the existing infrastructure, and that's what this is. So when I talk to people in the school transportation market space in general, and especially from the due capacity, I like to emphasize that this is supplemental school transportation. That's the role that we play. And the reason I think it's incredibly valuable is you can do a number of things here differently and in some ways better than you can in traditional school transportation. And I'll give you another example. When you need to do some form of, I'll call it emergent routing, another phrase that always gets my attention is when people talk about route optimization. Like, if you're not optimizing your route, why are you even using that route, right? You want to optimize every route, right? So the concept of route optimization to me is really another bit of a misnomer. I think what you really want to do is you really want to deal with something, and we'll call it like emergent routing, or we'll maybe call it something like rapid routing, or we'll call it maybe like instantaneous routing. And those things are not easy to do when you operate a fixed route system. So what HopSkipDrive does, and in particular, and they do it incredibly well, is they use a platform, and that platform connects drivers with students on behalf of school systems, or schools in particular, right? And in that regard, it's important for people to understand that, HopSkipDrive is not a school transportation company. We are a technology company. And to get back to your original point, that's one of the things that I find so intriguing and so fascinating and so interesting about this new role that I'm in, is I'm working in a tech company. I'm not working in a transportation company, right? And the people here think differently. They're incredible problem solvers. they're amazingly creative. They're super smart, and they are very much student and safety focused, which is to me a really nice overlap and a nice mix of what I did before and what I want to do in the future.
Outstanding. And what are the things that, when it comes to this sort of thing, that transportation directors need to be keeping in mind? Like you said, they really need to be the transportation director. And I know when I'm heading to school where my kids go in the afternoons, I see like a variety, not just the yellow bus. I see the local taxi companies and the smaller organizations that are delivering kids and picking them up. How does the transportation director in this day and age try to accommodate all those options for the parents who want those kids to get back and forth safely?
Yeah, again, as a parent, myself and you too, right? It's just enormously challenging. The pandemic did not make anything easier. So let me talk about a couple of issues. First of all, when the pandemic hit, the federal government just began to invest in the economy in order to try to keep things open and to keep the country afloat. And education was the fortunate beneficiary of a lot of that federal financial support. But that's over now. All right. So we're approaching a bit of a fiscal cliff. And when you had that extra money or additional money to not only help you continue to do the things you wanted to do, but maybe even do a little bit more in some areas, it was nice to have that money. But when it goes away, we've seen a dramatic increase in bond votes. I think this past bond vote was districts asked voters to approve I think more spending than any year since 2014, Wes. So they are very cognizant of the fact that a lot of the service they've been able to provide heretofore is at risk. Either that or they're going to have to raise taxes dramatically, and there's some states that have tax limits or the cap on increases. So you've seen a lot of bond votes. Traditionally, school buses are included in bond votes when you want to buy new school buses, right? Which takes me to number two. Everyone has been talking for the last couple of years, the last year in particular, about a shift to electric school buses and electric vehicle transportation. All right, and I think that's terrific. I think it's important. We're starting to document all the advantages of electric school buses, and we're also starting to understand more of some of the challenges that they present in context. One of them obviously is finance. Last year, as you know, EPA authorized $1 billion in federal financial support for electric school buses to 3 particular communities of people. Last number I saw was that there's a commitment of 5,600 vehicles, electric vehicles, derived from that revenue. And I'm not a mathematician, but if you do 5,600 vehicles with $1 billion of financial support, and you overlay that with a total number, and let's even use a low number, right? Let's say there's 480,000 vehicles. At 5,600 vehicles a year, that's roughly 85 years to turn that fleet over. Okay.
Yeah.
So those challenges are intrinsic, and the people who are out there are pushing a rock up a hill. There needs to be more people to push a rock up a hill successfully and faster. But that's what's going on at this early phase. All of that is to say that with the challenge of having a huge transition going on right now in equipment to having a looming fiscal cliff, which is going to be a big challenge, and then a shortage of CDL license holders that are willing and able to drive a school bus. It seems to me like a local school transportation director would say, oh, this is a very logical way for me to fill the gaps in the service that I have to provide, right? There are already a variety of programs out there that deal with walking, bicycling, and getting to school safely in other modes of transportation. But one of the things that really hasn't existed in this kind of iteration, and it's just a fantastic service, frankly, the way the platform works, is this supplemental school transportation. So I think a transportation director who's looking at their operations for the future needs to take a much, what I'll call it, a holistic approach and say, okay, as opposed to just saying, this is what I've always done, what I should be doing is kind of taking a step back, thinking about it from a broader perspective, and seeing if I can figure out how to supplement the traditional service that I provide, which is fantastic. But how can I supplement that with some of the other options, including technology, that will help me enhance student safety and solve some of the logistic challenges that I have.
Great. Well, thanks. Well, that is our time for now. Mike, thank you again for joining us. It's been a pleasure hearing from you.
You're welcome, Russ. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Of course. Thanks again, Mike, for taking the time. You can also find our 5 questions interview with Mike Martin linked from the details of this video. All right, it's time to park the bus for now. Thank you for watching. Tell your friends about the route. If you've got news, send it to me at wes.platt@bobbitt.com. Tweet us at SchoolBusFleet. Sign up for our twice weekly email newsletters at schoolbusfleet.com. Drive safely, and we'll see you next time on the route.